you talked during the Depression, you and your dad took a truck up to what, Chicago or Illinois and picked up furniture?
That's what Dad did,
And you rode with him one time?
Yeah, shortly enough, he took it, there was a World's Fair up there in 30, well, it was 30s, mid-30s, and he took Harold and I up there, and we went to the World's Fair. We walked around, yeah. I remember the World's Fair. The only thing I remember out of that World's Fair was one of the houses they built up there for a demonstration had a flat roof that people could walk out on. I love how neat that was.
Yeah,
You know, yeah.
And then you worked on when you were going to college, you worked as what, a milkman or something? I have a picture.
No, I was freshman in high school, yeah. And we had, I was 15 years old, and you couldn't get a license till you're 16. And I got so that I knew the route, and this Hubert Reichman taught me how to drive, and he had this old truck, and so they let me run the milk route, yeah. And it was the afternoon route I was running, and I was out on Highway 34, which went through Fairfield. And there was this customer, so I pulled over on the left-hand side, the wrong side of the road, to deliver the milk, and come back and looked in the rearview mirror, didn't see anything, and so I cut right across the highway again, and there was a motorcycle cop in my blind spot, and I ran him right up the curb. Yeah. And he got out and he chewed me up one side and down the other. Coley Hanks did, and he really blistered me real good. And I listened to him, and he didn't ask for my driver's license. He was so mad, and he just let me go. Didn't give me a ticket or anything. And my foot was so shaking so bad I couldn't get it off the clutch, really, you know. And I got around down by the old swimming pool and just sat there for 15, 20 minutes to get my legs wouldn't shake anymore. And I told this to Dad, and he just laughed and laughed and laughed. He was a policeman also. Yeah. And he said, "Good old Coley, you ran him up the curb. Great job." You know? He thought it was funny. I didn't think it was very funny. Dad thought it was funny. Yeah.
So you had 5 brothers?
4 brothers.
4 brothers.
There's 5 of us boys. Yes.
Right. And your mom would take the broomstick?
Oh, she was an expert. She kept us everyone in line. And she's a farm girl, and she had a broomstick, and she just wore like this, and she could punch you in the ribs so hard that and so fast you couldn't stop. You couldn't grab the stick or anything. She just boom, 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 and she moved you. Yeah. Yeah. And we used to sleep upstairs, and she'd take that and she'd thump the floor of the wall, of the ceiling, to let us know that breakfast or whatever, come on down and eat, you know.
Is that 301 West Hempstead?
No, it was at 106 4th Street, 104th Street. That's where we lived. Yeah. And she thumped that wall up there, and that meant you get up, you know, come on down. And we'd just lay there in bed a little pretty, thump, thump, thump. And boy, when that meant you better fly right now when she was coming up. And we'd get up and we'd move, yeah. She was an excellent cook, absolutely excellent cook.
Yeah. And then wasn't Uncle Ray, didn't he ride the rails then?
Yeah. Ray, he quit high school. When he turned 16, he'd had enough education. And
And he was big.
He's tall.
Yeah, he's what,
6'3" or 4".
Yeah. And
he was riding the rails out to California. Cletus lived in California out there gold mining. He had it all fixed up.
He was a gold miner.
Yeah, so Cletus went, so Ray was going out to sea with CJ, and he went through Arizona, I guess it was. And the bums threw him off of the train. He's riding the train. He didn't, riding a boxcar. And they threw him off out there. And the sheriff picked him up, and he didn't have any money. He had $5, and he wouldn't be a vagrant, right? And he was a vagrant, going to throw him in jail. So he wired home and asked the folks for $5, and they wired him $5, and that made him, so they wouldn't arrest him. He had $5 in his pocket, so he got back and got to take out of California. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then, how did all 3 of you get in different branches of the
Shorty was volunteered because he could go back. He could stay in college, and go.
Oh, and go through the, like our OTC or whatever.
Right,
come out.
and so he was in service, but he was still going to school because he was an engineer.
Okay.
And Ray was in the National Guard way back in '39, and he's the 133rd National Guard. He got separated from him down in Louisiana. He had to have an operation sometime, and so they went on over to England, and then from England they went through North Africa. But Ray got separated from him. He got into another group, and he ended up in Belgium, and they ended up in Italy. So
Then how'd you get in the Air Force?
they drafted me.
Drafted
And
you?
they come and drug me out, and tied me up, and took me off.
Good.
Yeah.
Ah,
And we were just lucky, we went to Des Moines, Iowa, and took the test and everything else. And
you got to go to the Air Force.
when we did what we were in, they put us on a train and went down to Florida for basic training. And on the way down, why it was all secure. They wouldn't tell us. We were on the way down. Said, "Well, you fellows are lucky. You're in the Air Force."
Wow.
Yeah, wait, Air Corps, Army Air Corps. Yeah. And they, well, that's great, you know. We got down there. There's three of us went together from the same town, and Bulldog boys, Kenneth boys, Bernard McWhorter, and myself. And we went basic training together, and we all took a test. Oh, you're all qualified for radio operators. And
Wow.
I said, well, okay. So they were qualified because that's what they needed then.
Oh.
So we went to Sioux Falls. They sent us up to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And we were up there wearing our khakis, and we marched off, and it was in March, and we got off the train in Sioux Falls into a blizzard. And we marched 5 miles to our barracks in a blizzard. And there's
This is Kathy's on, seen it before.
And then we went to radio school, and then we sat around out there, the three of us, and we joked that one of us wouldn't come back, one would get a Purple Heart, and the other was back and scratched. That's how we were going to do it, you know.
And what happened?
Well, before I ever got overseas, I got separated from him because I had an operation up there in Sioux Falls. And they went on, they graduated, and they went on, and Bulldog boys went down to gunnery school. Both of them went to gunnery school, and he got down there, and they x-rayed Boyce, and he had spots on his lungs, so they wouldn't let him fly combat. So he went off, and he was flying the hump over Italy. Over India. He was flying the hump over there. So he'll never get a Purple Heart over there, you know. And Bernard McWhorter, he got on the B-24, and I was still back in the States. And they sent him to, I don't know where, someplace. He flew evidently into Italy, where I was at. I don't know where. And he flew the mission, and he got shot down early over Wiener Neustadt. And that's where he was killed. So then that was our very last mission. We went to Vienna and bombed, and then on the way back, we had to wait for the plane. The group didn't bomb, so we waited for them to come catch up with us. And we flew 360s over in Wiener Neustadt, never got shot at all, and that's where Bernard was killed at. So sort of ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
And where was Ray? He was in.
Ray was in he was in Belgium, and he was
In the Army?
Ray was in the Army, and he helped maintain tanks. He maintained tanks.
And you in the Air Force?
I was in the Air Force,
And Shorty was
in the
in.
Navy. He was out in the South Pacific.
Cleet didn't go, right?
He tried to get in, and he found out that he took special training so he could work on planes.
Yeah.
And but they needed him. He was what they call a welder layout person, and they needed him in a tank factory.
Oh, so he stayed
So
here.
he came back. He was in England for a short, I believe he was in England for a short time. But they kept him back, and he worked at a tank factory, night superintendent of a tank factory in I think it was Rock Island, Illinois. Yeah. So he was a good layout man.
So your mom had 3 sons, all in World War II at the same time?
Yes, and then Kenny, he came in after he got out of high school. We were just got out of service, and he went into service at that time.
And where is he?
He was stationed, he was in the Navy, and he was stationed in San Diego. He worked in the hospital out there. That's what then from there, when he got out of school, he liked that, and he took 4 years of commerce University of Iowa, and he didn't like it, and he took another test, found out he should be a pharmacist, so he went back to school. And a couple more years, and that's how he became a pharmacist. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it was neat. It was,
So what years were you in the war?
I went in and drafted in January of '43 and got out in '45. I got out in September of '45.
So how old were you when you were over there?
I had my 21st birthday over there. Yeah.
Because you're born in 23, right?
I was born in '23.
I have a picture of you in Italy with a guy, and you're sitting around a fountain.
Oh yeah, one was Lou Sharpless, who was from New Jersey, and he was a couple years younger than I was, and the other one was Andy. He was other waist gunner, and he was a couple years younger than me too.
And you guys were on what, the B-24?
On what?
B-24? Or B?
B-24 bomber. Yeah.
And you were the
I was a radio operator and waist gunner.
waist gunner?
Yeah, when we stood up in the waist. We had a ball gunner and a tail gunner and a ball turret gunner up in front and what else we had?
So the gun was wrapped around your waist?
No. We flew the waist of the airplane.
Oh, the middle of the airplane,
yeah.
okay.
And I had the right waist gun, and Andy Anderson had the left waist gun. And we just, one gun, 50 caliber, was on a swivel, and we fired it.
And you'd shoot down if you saw a movement down below?
No, we never did. We didn't see too much, and we just went along. We were just went along in case they needed us. Yeah.
And you're in Italy?
Flew out of southern Italy, way down south. Yeah.
And then tell me about the time that you wanted to go for that raid, or you wanted to get through sooner, and the guy didn't let you get out?
Oh, yes, that was the, I was real smart. I always went out and found out I was volunteering for missions because the crew got ahead of me on missions, and so I was trying to get caught up, and I sort of liked that a little bit. So I'd go out to the line in the afternoon and check, see what the bomb load for the next day would be, and what the gas load would be. And if they had a heavy bomb load and light gas, that means it was going to be a short mission, which would probably be what we call milk run. You know, you no flak. You just go up and get
Go up and see
bomb it and run back. You know. Well, I went out and checked it, and it was a heavy bomb load and light gas, which means probably northern Italy or Yugoslavia, something like that, which would be a piece of cake, I thought. So I went to the sergeant and said, "Sergeant, I haven't flown for a couple of days. If my crew don't fly, I'd like to fly. And I'll fly radio, I'll fly cameraman, or I'll fly waist gunner, whichever you want, whatever you need."
Because if you volunteered, you got to go out sooner or something?
Well,
How many flights you
you
had?
had to fly so many missions. When
Before
you
you
do those
did.
missions, why, then you're all through, regardless of what your crew was.
Okay,
So that's why I was ahead of them at that time. I wanted to stay ahead of them.
right.
So I told him, he said, okay. So he wrote my name down. And about 4:30, something like that, I went up to the office and to see about flying. And I looked, and my crew wasn't flying. And in come a fella, said, I can't fly with Lieutenant Barr tomorrow, so I'm on my own crew. He said, what are you? I said, a radio operator.
And so you were.
That's right. So the sergeant turned around, looked right at me, looked right at me, and he wrote something. He looked over his sheet and wrote somebody else's name down, filled it in. And I didn't like that very well, but I didn't say anything. I just kept quiet. So I didn't like it at all. I was mad and didn't sleep very good that night. The next day I got up and went down to the briefing at 5 o'clock in the morning, and sure enough, they're going to northern Italy and bomb a bridge, piece of cake. Yeah. So I still didn't like it because he didn't let me finish, he didn't let me fly. So we went to, that afternoon we went out to watch the planes come back and count them, and there's one missing. And so we went to the briefing room where the crews come in, and so what crew, who's missing, where they at? They said, Lieutenant Barr, they shot down over the target, and no shoots were seen. means all 10 of them were dead. Yeah. So that's, I stopped volunteering right then.
Bad band.
Yeah, I didn't volunteer. And to this day, I don't volunteer.
Volunteer, there's a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go if they ask me, but I won't, you know, like the Red Cross called and they said, would you go? I said, sure, I'll go. But if I go out or if they say, if I call them up and say, if they need somebody, put me in, I don't do that. They have to call me to volunteer.
Now, what was the incident where your mom wrote you a letter?
Well, that was, we were up over, we had a bombing range in Vienna, which is the toughest target we had. And I made the mistake of stooping down and looking under number 3 engine to see what we're going to fly through. And all we had up there was this solid plaque. And I got so scared, I knew we had to fly right through that plaque. And it was just black up there. And it had our altitude, exactly the right altitude and everything. And I got so scared I couldn't move. I just froze. And Andy was sitting over there waiting for me to hand him some aluminum foil that he threw out, supposedly to foul up the radar. I never did. But so he was waiting. He kept bumping me, and I couldn't move. And so I said the 33rd Psalm. And when it came to I walked through the valley of the shadow of death, everything was lifted and I was okay and I passed. I knew it was going to be all right.
Wow.
And a few weeks later, I heard from Mom, and she said, which one of you boys were in trouble? There's 3 of us, you were all 3 of us. And she named the day and the time that she got out of bed and prayed.
Wow.
And it was me.
Wow.
So I wrote back, says, me, Mom, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I don't know anything about that, you know.
Yeah.
Did she really have that
I bet she did.
evidently she did.
Yeah, I wouldn't, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So I never checked into it after that, you know.
Let's check into it. I mean, it's something that she wrote to you.
It was strange, yeah.
And besides the aluminum foil, when you threw it out like the tinsels on Christmas trees,
Yeah,
the
there's
strings
like
of it?
tinsel on Christmas trees and little balls. And I handed Andy and he'd throw it out through the chute. He had a chute on his side of the plane and you threw it out and then float down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to stop the radar,
Well,
show up on the radar
supposed-
like it's...
It's supposed to, so they couldn't tell what it was, but they knew
didn't
exactly.
do that, yeah.
They knew exactly how they were real good and they put that right up there in your laps, you know.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And then you were telling Todd last night another story about, where was it? Your bombing raids, or something, the outhouse.
Oh, yeah. The Germans were developing their jet plane at that time, which was their new experimental plane. And they had an airfield just north of Munich where they were practicing at. And so we went up there as a squadron and we had 100-pound bombs on board. And we were just bombing the airfield, slow them up a little, you know. And we flew the mission, and there was no flak up there, nothing like that. Just we went up, and all the bombs dropped except I looked up through our bomb bay, and there was 4 bombs hung up. They didn't fall out when they're supposed to, for some reason or another. And I called up to the pilot. The pilot says, "Don't drop those bombs yet." I said, "Wait till they turn the cameras off."
Wow.
Yeah. So we waited, and. He pretty soon, when he didn't close it, don't shut the bomb bay door, leave them open. And then when we turned the cameras off, well, he said, okay, go ahead and hit the salvo button, get rid of them. And they hit the salvo button, and when they did, they're supposed to all drop out at the same time, but they all went on in chain, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I went back to the camera hatch we had, and was looking and watching them go down, and we dropped down, we were flying at 23,000 to drop the bombs, and when we as soon as we got off the bomb runway, we dropped. And we were down probably around 15,000, so I could see them pretty good. And the 4 of them dropping down through there, and I watched, and there was a farmhouse out there, and out behind this farmhouse was this little back house, and sanitary house, I guess, maybe you want to call it.
The old outhouse.
Outhouse. And the first bomb, I watched them boom, 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 and the 4th bomb, they were blowing up in the fields, and this fourth bomb went right through their little outhouse right there. And we hope nobody was there.
Yeah.
You know, but it just blew it all to pieces, and I could just imagine that German farmer saying, you know, what are the crazy damn Americans anyway? The bomber man's out now. You know?
And my field.
Yeah, well, the field is made, they were just, but that's all right, but, yeah, it just, I just almost hear him, you know, and he's right, you know, crazy damn Americans over here bombing our outhouses.
And then you were complaining how cold it was over there
Oh,
and how you had to keep warm.
Well, it was an extremely cold winter of 44 and 45 over there. Extremely chilly, and we were on a mission, and we had an old plane, and the number 3 engines where the generator would generate electricity, and we had what they call a electric suit on, a fly suit. We had flying suits, and under that was a heated pants and but kept us warm. And there was the thermometer that day froze 40 degrees below centigrade.
Ooh.
And the navigator figured it out. It's about, he said, it's over 70 degrees below Fahrenheit, he said.
Wow.
And the generator wasn't producing enough power for us, everyone to have their suits on high,
Yeah.
so we had to cut them back down to at least half. And we never did it real cold, but it was chilly.
And then you took the engine fuel and when you were sleeping and to warm things and short.
Well, that was, we had an old Italian barracks. That's where we stayed at. And we were in a small room, probably no bigger than 10 to 12 foot. And there were 6 of us slept in there in bunk beds. And they had no heat in the barracks. And so we were, as the Americans were, we sort of invented our own heat. And we went out to the flight line and we'd get a barrel. We steal a 50-gallon drum barrel and bring it in, and then we got copper tubing and a couple of outlets, and then we got a 5-gallon can and set it up on what they call an old bomb wing support. It looked like a little stool. And we put full of sand and put a pipe through the 4-inch pipe and went up through the ceiling, and that was our exhaust. And we'd turn that gasoline on. It was high octane gas, and we just drop it in there. You hear boom, boom,
And you just explode.
boom. That's where we got our heat. And they burned down a couple of barracks over around Toronto. They burned a couple of barracks down. So they decided they brought us fuel oil after that. They took care of theirs, so it was a little safer.
And Ray said he felt real sorry for
Oh,
you.
no. I wrote Mom and told her how tough we had it there in Italy. You know, we were staying in them old roof barracks and no heat, and the beds were just a piece of canvas, and it was really tough, you know.
Yeah.
And she wrote Ray, and Ray said he sure felt sorry for us. He was sleeping out under a tank in the snow. And he said, I sure felt sorry for you poor old fly boys, he said.
Well, and then, was he in the battle? Where was
Well,
he?
he said he was, I said, you were caught in the Battle of the Bulge. He just smiled, so well, we got credit for it. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, actually, I was AWOL. Another fellow, I was AWOL, we were down in Paris. And the war is about over with, you know, and he was down in Paris at that time. And they were AWOL. When they got back, well, the Battle of Bulge was just finishing up, and he joined his group, and no one knew he was missing, you know.
Came back as a hero.
But he said, oh, yeah, in the Battle of Bulge, he said. Yeah.
And then Shorty was where?
Shorty was in the Navy in South Pacific, yeah. And he didn't, I don't know where he's in any combat. He did get on an island out there before they got it in and got it all completely secured, and broke into one of the Japanese warehouses, and they sort of stripped it. The Navy sort of stripped it out of there. He got some binoculars and stuff, and he gave me a pair of them. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, Shorty was over there as an engineer?
Yeah, he was an engineer in the Navy. He went to Iowa State, and I don't know what he did. Probably made the coffee for him.
But he was over, and then Ray was a,
Ray was he repaired tanks and he was in Belgium preparing. When they get shot up, or they'd bring him in and help. he'd
Yeah.
help prepare.
And then you were the only one that was actually on the combat planes and dropping things and
Well,
shooting.
yeah, like in the battle, if you were caught in the Battle of Bulge, that's combat.
Well, but yeah, that's right, that's right.
Yeah.
Did you ever get any shrapnel or anything on,
You what?
were you hit with anything? Shrapnel or?
I was never hit, but the plane was. If we went, every time you went to Vienna, you got hit with shrapnel up there.
Was Ray or anyone ever hurt in your family?
No.
So your mom got all three boys back safe?
Yeah, she did. Yeah. Shorty he went ahead and finished his college up at Iowa State, and Ray, he didn't. Ray just went off and he did what he was.
He had to
gonna
do, and
Yeah,
then came back home.
he was he drove a truck for a while, semi for a while. Him and CJ were hauling lumber out of Arkansas and up into Iowa.
So Cleet was a gold miner.
Yeah,
and-
for a short time. He drove a big, he was out there and he bought himself a Oldsmobile convertible. And he drove it home. Boy, it was a beautiful car.
Wow.
Yeah, he drove it home. Ray came back home and he started cooking in a restaurant. And he was a fry cook at a restaurant. And that's how he got his start, really.
Yeah, the Dairy Queens.
Yeah, and then CJ was, when he came back out of the war, why CJ was hauling lumber out of Arkansas, and back there you had to have a permit and all that other stuff to buy that lumber. It was under what do they call it? I don't remember. It was racing, on racing, you know, and you couldn't buy.
Yeah, because everything was, all the food and everything was rationed.
Yeah, and he
Racing
come back
coupons?
and he was buying that lumber down there and it was illegal. But he bought it and hauled it back with a truckload. He had a straight truck and he'd haul it back, and Ray and him were in this business of the lumber business.
You couldn't come up and sit.
And, yeah,
Thank you.
CJ got caught doing this. The EPA caught him.
Because it was against the law?
Oh, it's against law, sure. And so he got, they sent down a subpoena to be in Des Moines, Iowa, and one of his friends turned out to be, that he went to school with, was one of the lawyers for the environmental, for the people. And he said, CJ gave me a check for, I don't know, $2,000 or something like that.
Wow.
And CJ, I don't have a check for $2,000. I don't have. He said, don't worry about it. Just give me the check. It won't be cash. And he says, if we get discontinued before July the 15th, so your case is dismissed and there'll be nothing on your record. Just tear up the record. Don't worry about it. And so, sure enough, by July 1st, everything was
Back to normal.
yeah. And so everything, he never got arrested for it.
Wow.
Yeah, he's been lucky that way all his life, yeah.
And that was, and then when you came back, I have a picture of you and Mom in, what, Colorado?
And then we were in Kansas for a while,
Okay.
Garden City, Kansas.
Is that where that was, that picture? You're on a bridge or something?
I don't remember.
I'll have to pull out that picture.
We went to Colorado for a little trip out there.
That may be it.
Yeah,
What you
we
got?
went out with a couple from that. They had the car, we didn't have a car, so we went with them out there.
Yeah. The thing I remember when we lived on West Hempstead, when Carol and I were little,
Yes.
bums would come
Mhm,
to the
yes.
back door.
Well, they weren't bums necessarily.
They were,
People off the
Off the
trains.
trains.
Yeah, they were hopping right on the trains. Yeah,
and they knew to come to your mom's store?
well, allegedly they had a place marked, and the word got around that this place would give you a hot meal, and my mother would anyone that come to the door, she'd fix them a plate and they'd eat off the back porch. Yeah, and then they always thanked her. They always offered to do something, but she
There
never.
are railroad tracks, and there's the Catholic church,
Yeah, we're about 2
then the
blocks.
Peck's house, and then
Yeah.
ours.
That's where it worked. Yeah.
What about the Red Cross? Did you, when you went to, what, September 11th?
Yeah, we were out there for that 9/11 deal. I joined the Red Cross. Lucille passed away in 1990, and in November 1990, and so I did all the fishing I could possibly do, and I was tired of fishing and tired of playing golf, And I had to do something other than that, so I said, well, I want Red Cross. I went over and asked them, and it seemed that the fellow that had been driving their truck on disaster services had just died. Then they're looking for somebody to drive their truck. And the person in charge of the volunteers happened to be a member of our church, and she said, well, oh, they're your new driver right now. So and they sent me to a week of schooling down in Oklahoma, at Norman, Oklahoma for Red Cross. And I came back, and then I've been busy ever since.
And you went to 9/11
Oh, yeah,
after the
9/11
September,
Yeah, that was in, I
2001.
went to New Jersey. I was in New Jersey, and it was interesting there. There are more people killed in New Jersey than New York City.
Because of the
More
rest.
people lived in New Jersey than they did in New York City. So they set up they had a ferry goes across there, and we had a building there, and these people would come in, and they had pictures of all of the people that they brought their husbands and so forth in this building. And we would feed them and take care of them when they come in, and they went across. There's a chaplain went with every group, and they would come back, and then we would feed them again. And they were pretty sad at that time. It was a sad situation. But
Brandon was born 1 week after 9/11. He was born on 9/17.
9/17.
And you brought back a little teddy bear.
Yes.
And the teddy bears were given to, what, the family members?
Yes, for the kids to help them out, you know.
If they lost their parent
Yeah,
or someone,
something.
yeah.
Right. And then so they had some left over. So when we left, well, they gave us all teddy bear.
Yeah. Yeah. Then so you've been at 9/11, which is historical.
Yeah, oh,
You went
yes.
to Katrina.
Oh yes, I was Katrina.
Yeah.
Yeah. And found, Mississippi got hit hard too. I was in Mississippi. I didn't go to New Orleans, thank goodness. And they were hit pretty good. Yeah, we went down on the beach, and they just wiped out everything down through there. It was a pretty good tornado, a pretty good hurricane.
And then all the different places you've been as a Red Cross, because you've gone on many of them. West Virginia was one of your favorite places? Is that where you said
I like
people were
West Virginia, and Texas is not bad. Texas is pretty good. I just shouldn't pass on Louisiana anymore.
Yeah.
And I'd pass
And Florida,
I'd pass on Florida. That was we were down there for Andrew. That was one of the first ones.
Andrew.
Yeah, Hurricane Andrew. We were down there for that one, and I took a fellow with me that was from. He was an ex-Navy man, little fella, and he was retired from the Navy. And we were down there, and we got on a IRV truck. We drove an IRV, emergency response vehicle. We were overfeeding in South Dade County, which is really the poor section.
The Mayan, yeah.
Yeah, minority and poor. We went down there and we were feeding these people, and he got sick one day, and so we said, you stay in the room today, and I'll find somebody else, and I did, and when I came back, why, he was all shook up. We talked to him, and we were staying at Howard Johnson's over in the north part of Miami, and they had a big high fence all the way around it with barbed wire on top of it, and 3 boys got in there, and they followed him into the annex where he was at, and he started down there. Hey, Pop, where you going? They reached over and they put a gun on him.
Wow, it's a Red Cross volunteer.
Yeah, and he said, if they ever get me outside, they'll kill me. He knew that.
Yeah.
So he fell down he just fell down, and they started dragging him out. He just fell on the ground and started kicking and hollering and screaming, and he accidentally kicked the gun out of that fella's hand, just accidentally. And when he started to scream, 2 of them took off running, and the other fella had the gun. He reached down, picked up his gun, and he followed them out. Wow. That's the only thing that saved him, yeah. So they didn't really appreciate us.
No,
Yeah. And we were out in a day or 2 later, was out delivering food, and we would go out in the morning with canned goods and to give to these people so they could start cooking their own. It was about time. They didn't have any roof on their house, but they could still cook.
Yeah.
And so we'd give them food to start, and that way we would finally get them where they're on their own. And we'd take hot meals out in the afternoon, but in the morning we'd take out canned goods. And we had some canned goods on board, and there was 3 of us out there. and my partner, and then they put a woman on there with us. And we got out there and I had 5 or 6 of the ladies behind back, the black ladies. And it says, I had some tomatoes and this, and we passed it all out. About that time, the pickup truck was 5 boys on there, black boy, boy black. They pulled up and said, hey, give me a case of this, give me a case of that. And they were young fellows, 18, 19. And I turned to the black lady, said, you want me to give them your food? That's what I'm giving you.
Yeah.
If you want me to, I'll give it to them and whatever you like. And the girls and the ladies chased, you all get out of here now, you get, they said, and they chased them off.
Yeah.
If I chased them off, they probably jumped out, put a
Yes.
knife in me, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember that pretty well. That was my first experience with Florida.
Yeah. Yeah, you had enough of that.
Yes, that was enough. We, I wasn't never scared, but we had the herb completely locked up except the back door, and we just had it cracked a little bit, and then the group inside would pass me out the food, so that's the way it worked out. Yeah.
I love you, a bushel and a peck, a bushel and a peck, and a hug around the neck, a hug around the neck, and a barrel and a heap, a barrel and a heap, and I'm talking in my sleep about you, about you. 'Cause I love you, a bushel and a peck, you bet your pretty neck I do. A doodle-oo-doo-doo. A doodle-oo-doo-doo-doo. I love you, a bushel and a peck, a bushel and a peck, though you make my heart a wreck, make my heart a wreck, and you make my life a mess, make my life a mess, yes, a mess of happiness about you, about you. 'Cause I love you, a bushel and a peck, you bet your pretty neck I do. A doodle-oo-doo-doo. A doodle-oo-doo-doo-doo. I love you, a bushel and a peck, a bushel and a peck, and it beats me all to heck, it beats me all to heck, how I'll ever tend the farm, ever tend the farm when I wanna keep my arm about you, about you. 'Cause I love you, a bushel and a peck, you bet your pretty neck